Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Holy God, what are you showing me? His head. Come on.
So, we are getting closer and closer to the Fantastic Four about to begin filming. We got our cast, we have our story, and so far things are looking great and I'm getting very excited. I've been a big fan of the Fantastic Four for basically my entire life. They are a team with so much interesting lore and ideas and dynamics that deserve their time in the spotlight. Especially with the resurgence of the X-Men with things like X-Men 97 and the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine, I think Marvel is going to bring so much passion to their first family. Now, with all the recent things at Marvel not being the best lately, but I think this film has so much potential to be the best Marvel film ever. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do you think of the Fantastic Four? Are you excited for this movie? Are you not? I would love to hear it all down below. But without further ado, let's get started. So when it comes to like the past Fantastic Four films, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. I've never been huge on them. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade on you if you guys love them. If you love them, great. But I've always found the original to be, enjoyable. I think it's a fun movie to rewatch every now and then. They have a great dynamic, I'll give you that. Like, the chemistry between the four is great. But everything else is just meh. Like, it's a pretty average story. And then Rise of the Silver Surfer was like a big disappointment for me. And then we had the awful Fan Four Stick, and yeah, we don't talk about that. Now, if you like them, like I said, that's fine. I was just never huge on the Fox films. In my opinion, we haven't really ever had a good Fantastic Four film. 20th Century Fox really didn't do great with their Marvel properties. Whether it was the X-Men or the Fantastic Four, they clearly didn't understand the characters and did poorly for the most part. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all of the areas Fox did was bad, because that's just not true. They did do some good, like Logan. But overall, I think they did more bad than good, at least in my opinion. But that's why I'm excited for the new Fantastic Four movie, because regardless of what came before, this reboot in theory should finally give these characters the spotlight they deserve. Now, this film has been through a lot of weird development. It was announced all the way back at Comic-Con in 2019, but later at Disney Investor Day, they announced it would be directed by Jon Watts, who, if you guys don't know, directed the past few Spider-Man movies. But after the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, Watts left the project. Now, he didn't leave because of creative differences or scheduling conflicts, no. Watts just wanted like a break from making superhero movies, and yeah, that makes sense. Like, I know some people may think we can make endless comic book movies till the end of time, but when you're focusing on something for like a decade, I feel like you kind of want to break from that. And around the time, we had some of the most annoying, rumored castings, and it got worse and worse and worse every week, with people like Penn Badgley or Jodie Comer, just to name a few. Now, around the time of D23, we had the confirmation of the new director that would be Matt Shakman, who I think is a great choice. For those who don't know, he has mainly done work for TV, such as Game of Thrones, The Boys, and for Marvel, WandaVision. I think WandaVision is one of the best MCU shows, and the direction was great, so I'm very excited to see what he does. Granted, it did have a pretty shit finale, but it's whatever. I'll take the rest of the series good over one bad episode any day. He also did Monarch, which is one of the monster shows, which I haven't seen, but that's really because I don't really care for monster movies, so that's more of a me thing than anything. And I just don't care about the Monsterverse. I don't get it. Like, I seriously don't. Like, if you guys understand, please tell me. And the writing team is also really great. Originally, we had two, comedy writers, but now we have some very talented writers. Specifically, Josh Friedman, who, if you didn't know, has written a lot of sci-fi films. And, yeah, I think that's perfect for the Fantastic Four, because I think that can easily make a great Fantastic Four story with some really cool sci-fi elements. He also recently wrote the new Planet of the Apes film, which I love, and the writing was incredible. And he wrote one of the Avatar movies, and the studio had no notes on it. So I think we can expect some great writing here. And then we got even more painful Fantastic Four casting rumors, and I just hated them so much. Most of them, at least. Like, when Marvel began casting last year, the rumored lineup was to be Adam Driver, Margot Robbie, Paul Mescal, and Daveed Diggs. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I hated that casting. Like, nothing personal against those actors. I actually really like their work. But these actors were just way too big at this point. I mean, Adam Driver with his Star Wars movies, Margot Robbie with Barbie and all her DC roles. Paul Mescal literally just became, like, Oscar nominated. And Daveed Diggs, I actually liked that casting. I didn't hate it. I would have been down for it. But for the other three, I would have just seen the actors and not the characters. And for, like, these kind of big roles, I would prefer, like, more lesser-known actors. And that's the main reason. Like, they were just too big to a point I would see the actors, not the characters. And this comes from someone who loves Margot Robbie to death. And I did not want her as Sue Storm. Now, around Valentine's Day, we got the official cast announcement that was also rumored at one point. Probably the weirdest way to announce a cast, like, honestly, ever. And that was being Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Backrack. Like, literally, I swear, if we get this sort of, like, rumored casting when Marvel does the X-Men, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my mind. Now, if I'm being completely honest, you guys, when this was announced, I was super mixed. Specifically with Pedro and Joseph. I just didn't see them as those characters. Specifically Pedro. Because, like, I just don't know what it is. I just didn't see it. And also, he's, like, very old. Like, around the time this movie comes out, he'll be 50, so, like, I don't know how many movies they're gonna make with him. But as of right now, I actually really like these castings. Especially after seeing a lot of fan art be thrown around and seeing them do interviews. I'm honestly on board with these characters and these actors. I do hope Marvel does better with Reed compared to how they did him with Multiverse of Madness. I know it was just a simple cameo, but John Krasinski's role in the film just felt surface level at best. He didn't really serve any purpose other than to get some fans to cheer in the movie theater. It was pure nostalgia bait. It had no purpose whatsoever. And honestly, after that, I don't want to see John Krasinski as Reed Richards. He was clearly just there for the paycheck. Like, I don't know why I was on board with this. But for Ebon, I actually recently started watching The Bear, and he's fantastic. No pun intended there. And he really seems like the perfect person to play Ben Grimm. Like, recently in the episode I was watching, there's this point when he's just talking about purpose, and it was just so good. It was just, like, one simple scene, and I was just like, yes. He's a great actor, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him and what design they go for him. But the person I'm most excited for is my favorite member of the Fantastic Four, Sue Storm. I absolutely love the casting of Vanessa Kirby. She is just perfect casting all around. I've been a big fan of her since I saw her in the Mission Impossible films, and she's actually my favorite part of those newer films. And even in films I don't like, such as Hobbs and Shaw, she's great in. When I was younger, I was always more interested in Reed. I just loved how smart he was. He was my guy. But as I got older, I really have started to like Sue Storm a lot more. Because Sue is really the heart of the team in some ways. She was the first female superhero and has always been my favorite for a while now. Like, whenever we get set photos, like whenever they start marketing or the press tour starts, I don't think I'm gonna survive looking at how Mother Sue and Mother Vanessa Kirby looks. I might explode. One thing I am curious about, though, are the costumes. Like, what route are Marvel gonna go with the Fantastic Four costumes? There have been multiple variations of their costumes over the years, whether it's in the comics or the original series, or Fan4stick, or even the animated series. Now, you could argue that the reveal photo could be a hint to what their costumes could look like. But when you look at Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, they're just in their lounging clothes. So I don't think those will be like the Fantastic Four costumes in the film. But I would love to see the blue and white costume. Not only because it has never appeared in live action yet, but it will be a great way to differentiate itself from the Fox films entirely. Those uniforms just add a lot of color and really just shows how this team operates. In terms of the story, this looks like it's going to be very different from not only the past Fantastic Four movies, but most MCU movies in general. It's been rumored for a while that this movie would take place in the 1960s, with other rumors saying it would take place in an alternate universe, and recently Kevin Feige confirmed both of those things. I'm a bit 50-50 on that. On one hand, it removes all the baggage from the MCU so you don't have to do homework, something that Marvel has been under fire for recently. But on the other hand, for casual audiences, it could be confusing. Like, imagine if a viewer sees the first movie and then the sequel, they're on a different Earth. It will definitely be a challenge. But who knows, audiences don't really care either way, and maybe the movie ends with them being stuck in an alternate dimension like the negative zone. We'll just have to wait and see. We also know the villain will be Galactus, which I'm super excited for. Ralph Inson, I probably butchered that, seems like the perfect choice, and has just such a great voice for this character, and you need that for Galactus. Like, you need that 100%. I know some wanted Galactus to be like a saga villain, but I never saw him as like a big Thanos level event villain. I just never saw him like that. Like, he's a Fantastic Four villain, first and foremost, not an Avengers villain, sorry. I will say, though, I do hope this isn't a one-off kind of scenario. I hope he sticks around, because he's such a great villain, and it will be such a waste if he is just a one-time villain. But at least we're getting a proper Galactus, not some cloud. Like, what were the Fox executives thinking? Like, who came up with this thing? It seems like Fantastic Four might take some inspiration from the coming of Galactus, but Marvel normally takes like small inspiration and puts their own spin on it, so it's probably going to be very different. With some other castings like Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, and Natasha Lyonne, it would be very interesting seeing how they fit in the story. Nothing is confirmed on who they are playing, but Paul could be Mole Man, Malkovich could be Puppet Master, and Natasha could play Alicia Silver. So many of the Fantastic Four characters have barely been used in the movies. Most of them have just been the team going up against Doctor Doom, so I hope Marvel puts a spotlight on these other characters. Like, I love Doctor Doom. He's probably one of my favorite villains in all of comic books. And he has been done dirty in the last couple of years, especially in live action. But I would rather see something new, instead of the same thing. I mean, we already know this isn't an origin story, so why not just focus on them in their like first few years as the Fantastic Four and showcase more of the Rogues Gallery? And speaking of Rogues Gallery, let's talk about something I'm sure the comments are going to be very happy with: the Silver Surfer. I know this is such a big debate among people calling Marvel woke for stupid reasons. And I'll admit, I wasn't happy when they announced a female Silver Surfer. But I would have been fuming if they just race swapped the Norrin Rad version. But it isn't. It's the Shala Ball version. So I'm fine with it, honestly. Plus, this is an alternate universe. So you're still going to get Norrin in the main MCU eventually. It's going to happen. And after watching parts of Ozark, thanks to this and the Lanterns news, I am very excited to see what Julia Gardner brings to this character. She is easily my favorite part of Ozark. She is just phenomenal as Ruth. I think she may be one of those characters in this movie that steals the show. I would not be surprised. But even with all of that said, there is one big question. What makes a good Fantastic Four movie? Now, Marvel definitely has not been the best over the years. I don't think that's a hot take at this point. Phase 4 just felt absolutely pointless, and Phase 5 still not doing the best job either. Especially, basically, with the Fantastic Four brand being tarnished over the years. Especially with the last movie being one of the worst superhero movies ever made. This movie is gonna need to be great to get audiences on board. But these people at Marvel Studios are hardcore Marvel fans. Kevin Feige is a fan. He's just like us. He has said multiple times in interviews how much he loves these characters, how excited he is to bring these characters onto the big screen. And I think the best way to make a good Fantastic Four movie is to put a big emphasis on the family dynamic. When it comes to a team, say the Avengers, they are just co-workers. Nick Fury just picked them up and made a team. They aren't a family, they're co-workers. But the Fantastic Four are a family, in a similar way to the way the Guardians of the Galaxy were a family. They are Marvel's first family. They love each other. Even though they may disagree on certain things, they are a family, and that's what makes them so important. Each member is so different from each one of them. Reed has the brain, Sue is the heart, Johnny is the heat, and Ben is the muscle. Each being very different from the other, with different power sets and personalities. All were just one day on a mission when one day they went into space and got their powers. Not going for secret identities, but instead becoming celebrities. But even with that, they are this sort of dysfunctional but very loving family. The core of the Fantastic Four is the family element. Even if there isn't a lot of sci-fi or the Rogues Gallery, if Marvel is able to get the family element down perfectly, then I think we're in for something very special. And I, for one, cannot wait for the Fantastic Four.